Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Release Valve. I am your host, Sean Hanlon, and I am extremely excited to have another returning guest with me today. She is a TEDx speaker, successful alchemist, and soul CEO activator who helps leaders flip the switch on self-sabotage and unlock unshakable confidence and lead with unapologetic truth. She's the creator of the I Deserve It Now brand. It is my deepest pleasure to welcome back Dawn Thompson. Dawn, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I love having the juicy chat with you. It's like you and I could probably do these for 3 hours. So I love being here because we just get it and
Yeah,
it's fun.
no, absolutely. And that last conversation we had, again, I could have continued to talk to you, like you said, for another 2-3 hours. I had to reel it back in. I'm sure it's going to be the same thing again. I really appreciate you reaching out, especially over what was happening. And I knew that as soon as you reached out to me and said, let's talk about this, I was like, oh yes, this is going to be a good one. I know she's going to bring it. I'll give a little backstory for those that don't know. I had, after several male guests ghost me on being my guests, time set, date set, time was usually set by them and day. And then when the time came, crickets, for who knows? I only had literally one person reach out to me after the fact and say, "Oh, sorry, I mixed up my days and times or whatever." It was kind of a lame excuse, if you ask me. But I wanted to. I made a post and I wanted to let the followers know, the reason why I was sort of being inactive with the podcast and not doing any more episodes. I was trying, but yeah, all these guys just kept dropping off without even saying a word. And the thing that bothered me the most was the silence behind it. Not even reaching out saying, sorry, I can't make it. It takes 10 seconds to send a message,
Mhm.
3 words, can't make it. Um, and I didn't get any of that. I noticed that there was a pattern with all the ghosting, and they were all males and they all did, the exact same thing. And I wasn't the only one that noticed. Dawn, you noticed as well.
I
And,
did.
you didn't just sympathize, you jumped on there, and what you said, or what you did was it showed true growth mindset of somebody that has a deeper understanding of these type of things. And you wanted to dive into this conversation, so I was really excited about that. You saw my frustration about being ghosted, and you didn't just scroll past it, you didn't just like it or say, oh, sorry. You responded publicly, and the term that you used was the 4BS wounds, which really intrigued me as soon as I saw that. Can you break that down, what the 4BS wounds means?
So you know me, I'm always trying to be a disruptor. I mean, clearly the word BS stands for, your bullshit, but it's actually your blind spots, right? As you and I've talked about, I utilize astrology, and again, not to crystal ball it, but to look at your subconscious. It's a very easy, fast tool to look at your subconscious and go, oh, here are these 4 spots, reveal your subconscious where you're wounded or you've got a block. And so it stands for the 4 Bs, which is your blocks, your baggage, your emotional baggage, like we bring from childhood, right? Your bruises, and then your breakthroughs. And wherever these blocks are, whether I use your chart or you're just a human out there and you're like thinking you're going to avoid it, it's an energetic masterclass, soul class. You created God, like the universe, and you came down and said, I got to learn this, right? And so most people are blocked in a category of their life. It's where we stop ourselves, but it's a lesson we came to learn, but we avoid it. So it's kind of becomes a lot of blind spotting BS. And then you get blindsided by it. You're like, oh, I got to learn.
Right.
Right. So it's that simple. Baggage is the emotional baggage. Typically we carry from our mother wound or some sort of childhood, right? That we're still carrying, and we project it, onto another person because we don't want to deal with it. And then the bruises are kind of like those old wounds still shaping your reaction, right?
Mm.
So you were bullied. Example of me, I was bullied a lot as a kid. I moved a lot. I mean, you're the new kid. They find you like,
Easy target.
an instant target, right? Which is, I get it, but it made me stronger and I get it now. But as a child, that was a bruise, right? Like, so there was a
Right.
lot of like not fitting in and and being criticized and bullied. Well, where that bruise sits in my personal birth chart, and I had to go look at these subconscious, it's in the public sector. So anytime I go to public and friends, I get, so there's a part of me goes, oh, I had to grow up and learn that. But if you don't know this stuff, you just think something's wrong with you. And what fascinates me is
Mm,
the fourth B is breakthroughs. And they're the lessons trying to emerge out of all of it. Like we're here to grow there, but we avoid it. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. And you, of all people, know we don't like doing things that are uncomfortable because that is actually where the growth point is, but we avoid it. And so for, twist of words and playing lighthearted in it, it's your four BS spots of subconscious, right? And
mm,
most people think that they're reacting to what's happening, like today. Like this happened, I got in an argument, I forgot this, whatever, but they're not. They're reacting from an old wound that they've never questioned.
right.
And those four are very visual that I can show you in 2 seconds on a chart and go, oh my gosh, you're totally right. That's exactly where they happened. Now we can move forward. So
Mm,
people aren't fighting reality as much. They're fighting their unresolved history. And so that's where that was showing. I was like, oh, well, they're either A, insecure in one of these areas or something flared them up, or B, they're being reactive somewhere over here and you paid the price,
mm,
or C, there was something in your energy field at the time and you were putting out one of your blocks of saying, I'm being, why am I not being seen? Why am I not being seen? And because energetically you are kind of on the same frequency level, I was like, I
mm.
see you, like just totally happening, so we kind of have to acknowledge it from many angles, but at the end of the day, it's our stuff. And so, really, it was more like asking yourself, why is this triggering me? It's a lot. But then also going, kind of not my BS. Now you know
Right.
what the BS is, right? But it's not your BS, it was theirs, right? And so I was like, yeah, that's big time. And it's happening with everybody. I just am, like you said, I'm seeing it. So you said there were a lot of men, right? Like that,
Yeah.
so I'm seeing it more in men right now than I am women too, but just there's a little bit more of a skew.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. And we don't realize a lot of, like you said, we often don't realize why. We know what we view and what we feel when we see it. That's our perception of things, but we don't
Mhm.
realize why we view things the way that we
Yes.
do. And you're right
Yes.
that a lot of that has to do with the past, our upbringing,
Mhm.
programs that were instilled in us. And yeah, this is the way I view the world. This is my vantage point. I look at it from this angle, and this is what I see from this angle. Instead of, yeah, having that deeper understanding of why you view things the way that you do, why you react the way that you do, why you say the things that you do, act and react. It's you have to have that level of self reflection at some point in your life to realize, okay, maybe it's not my fault what just happened, but how I responded is my
Yes.
fault. And why did I respond that way? And then start doing that, that reverse engineering. And then you
Mhm.
can start going forward with that better understanding of who
Mhm.
you are, why you are the way
Mhm.
that you are, and what you can do to
Huge.
then re-guide yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Course
huge.
correct.
It's huge. And you can look at it in three layers. Like you said, it's like see it, and then you have to clear it in some sort of tool, and then you have to rewire it. Well, most people are barely moving into the see it stage, which is why I've made everything so simple in my frameworks is just see these 4 BS spots, right? You don't have to
Hmm.
even like stay there. I just want you to see it. And that way, when it does show up, i.e., someone shows up and abandons me, I was like, oh my God, they're leaving me again. I'm like, are they really? So then I had to do like you did. And then you were like, cool, Dawn, let's talk about this and get it out. You weren't staying there. I had just recently showed up from vacation and then I had, a shift in some staffing and I was like, I'm being abandoned. And I was like, wait, 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 wait. You said there's a part of me wanted to because I saw it, but I was like, no, you cleared this. And I had to rewire it into a
Hmm.
bigger opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you and I are reviewing people, you're seeing that a lot of people are still stuck in the seeing it part and they're just starting to see it, but they don't know what to do with it once they see it.
Right, right. Well, I like that the first one is blocks because you're right.
Yeah.
It is usually a blockage. It's
Yeah.
a metaphorical wall that was
Yes.
placed
Yes.
due to something that happened, and then you
Yep.
started building that wall brick by brick, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden you have that nice big thing. You don't have to see anything. You don't have to
Yeah.
address it.
Right?
Once you realize that that wall is there and what's on the other side of that wall, then yeah, you realize all the baggage that's over there that you have to unpack and figure out how to work through and actually process. I was just talking about this the other day, and you had touched base on it too. We don't like to feel uncomfortable. We don't
Mm-mm.
like to address those things that make us feel uneasy, that make us feel vulnerable, because
Mhm.
there's some fear of exposure, I guess, maybe, that people will realize all of that baggage that we have behind that wall and will be judged for it maybe, or people will think less of us or something. It's usually self-placed things in our head that
Mhm.
that
For
prevent us
sure.
from really being able to process the things that we need to
Mhm.
process in order to
Mhm.
grow, in order to change our mindsets, in order to adapt and overcome and persevere and all those things. And I think that block is such an important one. I'm glad that you have that as the first one because you're so right. It's so hard to even recognize that that wall is there because we're
Well, you
kind
know
of, walking
what's
around like,
fascinating about the block is, like, again, when I look in your chart, that's Saturn, right? And a lot of people are, "Oh, Saturn is bad," and I'm like, "It's the best planet in my mind because it's showing you, I know you're gonna feel blocked. This is gonna feel heavy. It's gonna feel like this boulder on top of you, but if you learn to dig a tunnel under or climb a mountain that you didn't wanna climb, you get to the top and you're like, 'Oh my god, I'm so,' like, you feel so much more confident
mm,
if you just knew where the block was. But if we do it in general, like something's wrong with me, everybody thinks something's wrong with them. And I'm like, I call BS on that. You're perfect. We just have to learn that one little area that you're avoiding. It's asking you, climb this mountain, dig a tunnel. I don't know what you have to do to learn this lesson, but there's something there for you. And once you get there, it's like it blows my mind because I'm like, oh, if I would have just learned that when I was 30, this will whole, like
right.
what the heck? And so for me, it's always been more like I just want to see what I need to learn and what class I need to go to. So there are like four classes in your soul that you're going to be uncomfortable or hard to go to. You don't want to go to those classes. They're master classes you chose to learn. The rest of the part of your life is pretty easy, not hard. Like if people ask me all the time, like kids are easy for me. I don't really have a problem with kids. It's that thing right there, right? Or whatever it is. Like that's where I struggle with.
Mm,
And so, again, I was expressing earlier, like those bruises of being bullied and criticized. And now I'm like, go ahead, bring it. Like, I love it because it's telling me about you, not me. But the old me would have
right.
been, it's telling me about me. That's outside in thinking instead of inside out. But I didn't
Ooh.
know it till you know it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of us have to experience it first and then be able to be removed from it and look back on it and say, oh, I see what was going on there. Because yeah, especially when you're young too, you don't have that forward thinking. It's hard to it's almost impossible to look at that bigger picture because you've only lived for so long. So that's all the experience that you have until you
Hmm.
experience more and then you can look back on it and be like, oh, okay, that wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was. I went through the same thing. I moved to California when I was 8 years old, had a big Bostonian accent, when I moved out there, and so everybody wanted me to talk in that accent and say different things, say car, say water. So as a little kid, I learned to, or I actively started working on talking without that accent. So that
Mm,
way I could fit in, I could not
mm.
be, have so many eyes on me, so many things. I felt like people were laughing at me instead of with me. There was something,
There it
who I
is.
was. Right, right. So there was
Yeah.
something who I was that was funny to other people, and I didn't think it was funny because it was just who I was. Now
Mhm.
looking back on it, I'm like, man, I wish I still had that accent. I wish I'd never changed it. I
Yep.
wish I allowed people to
Yep.
accept me for who I was, be proud of who I am, all those things. And as I got older, I embraced it more. But when I was young, 8 years old, I didn't like it. It didn't make me feel good. I had a
Yeah.
very thick Boston accent for some reason. I didn't even live in Boston, but I
You
had a
know what's
thick
funny
accent.
about that is that's probably one of these 4 Bs sitting in your birth chart showing you a subconscious, and it's funny, you're like, "They're making fun of me for how I talk," and here and you and I are sitting with your brilliance, like, having you're talking, like, so it's, it's fascinating where if we could see it faster is the where I always sit, is like,
Right.
"Here, I'm gonna show it to you faster," but still, when you see it, you still have to clear it, you still have to embrace it or learn it and then rewire it, and so you're in the right place. It's all there for us, but it just I don't know. I get frustrated because I don't think it should take so long and this whole 20 years of therapy and
Mm,
something's wrong with me and I tell everybody every day on most of my calls, there is nothing wrong with you. You just couldn't see what you had to work on
right,
or you
right. What?
didn't know, right? I'm not letting you off the hook, but you just didn't know till you know, right? And when you
Right.
know, then there's no off the hook kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Once you're made aware of something and you
Yeah.
make a choice to not address it or continue down the path that you were on, again, you made that choice and now I'm going to hold that against you.
Yeah.
You didn't know
Yeah.
better before, now you do. So,
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
one thing that you said and I completely agree was that you're seeing this pattern more in men lately than women. It's still there with women, but more so with men. Why do
Mhm.
you think this pattern shows up more visibly in men right now? Is it a masculinity issue? Is it general issue? Something else entirely? What do you think that is?
Yes, yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. Um, so, in order for I could go on this topic, but first and foremost, energetically, we're energetic beings. The universe shifted. We went out of 20 years of energetic planets, universe, frequency of feeling of water and earth energy, which was very like psychology. Like we've been doing psychology deep diving for the last 15 years and go into your this and that. And this is great because it's woken people up. That's wonderful. And then we moved into this energy of air and fire, which is wisdom and authenticity of our soul and truth.
Mm,
And so now you go into men. And again, I'm sharing with you, I'm writing this new relationship course because of this, because it keeps coming up with my clients. And what I think is happening, and I'm watching it, is I think men are experiencing this massive like identity recalibration for generations. I mean, probably for the history of Earth up to this point, right? But worth has been measured in providing and producing and
mm,
protecting. And it's still in the masculine. I mean, you got testosterone running through your veins pretty thick. Women do too, but not at the masculine men level, right? And
right.
so there's no right or wrong. We're all masculine, feminine, but this is where they've been kind of put into that is it. That's you, right? And so now the rules have changed. So a
Mm,
lot of men are asking, like, they're asking more like, okay, if it's not my job, that makes me great. And I'm a man, like, if it's not my income, if it's not my achievements, who am I? And no
right.
one's helping people see this. So again, this energy is affecting everyone. I felt it, right? And I know what's happening, right? But it's forcing us into authentic truth. And this isn't a
Mm,
comfort place because what is your truth? Who am I? If I took your labels away, that job, the money, I'd make so much money. I know, but if that went away, who are you? And
right.
we talked about it earlier, right? And that's uncomfortable.
Yep.
And so what we're seeing it isn't so much weakness or they're doing things, they're just we're seeing men being forced to separate their value from their performance, and you had a performance energy that showed up and go, "Whoa, whoa, wait. They're not showing up because it's just who I am, and I wanna talk this deep talk with Sean." They weren't not showing up because there was something about it with their value, money, and worth, and it's not working anymore, and so now they're getting
Mm,
called out, and they're like, "Whoa." So it wasn't a right or wrong, it's just many men were taught how to achieve success, and honestly, very few were taught how to know themselves.
mm,
And so we've moved from look, I mean, and I'm kinda using the planets lightly because I'm not gonna go into the universe right now, but we moved into energetic from this energetically into authentic truth. And most don't have communication problems. So they didn't have a problem communicating with you. I just saying, calling them out. They have or strategy problems, like they couldn't send an email or whatever. They have honesty problems. And it's the
Mm.
simplest fix I see in all marriages, all relationships, personal or professional. We don't have communication and strategy problems. We have authentic and honesty problems.
Mm.
And blow that up or not, but I simplified it down into couples come to me quite a bit, relationships, and I'm just like, you don't have a communication problem. You're not being honest with
Right.
the four B's, right? If you knew your
Right.
BS, you knew your authentic self, and then you could decide from a level of, is this a want or a need? You'd start showing up, and then a spouse, I could say, oh, Sean, okay, well, I didn't know you wanted that. Okay, well, I'm going to go run an errand first. Do you care? Because that would take time and I could adapt to you. But if I don't know what you want, it's exhausting and overwhelming. That's what they're doing. And
Mm.
so wanting because it's from your authentic self is different than needing, which is scarcity and lack. Because when I need something, I need you to change. I need you to remember. I need you to email me 3 times and remember I'm coming and give me 3 reminders. And I need you to need me, which is neediness, right? Or lack, meaning I
Right.
don't have it. I don't have the time. I don't have the value. Instead of going, wait a minute, I want people to respect my time. I need to respect Sean's time.
Mm.
See the difference? I know what I want instead of neediness. Like I need it to be something else. I'm using your
Right.
example, but this could be
No, yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of
relationships or
sense.
whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. You're almost it's probably more so subconscious than conscious because I
Yeah,
think if a lot of
yeah.
people were aware of that pattern within themselves, they would understand how it would be perceived. So, and they wouldn't do that. But you're so right. I think that says a lot about somebody when they do those type of things. And it's almost this, yeah, this subconscious act, this performance that you're putting up to try to prove a point
Mhm,
almost to
mhm.
yourself more than
Yeah,
anything, right?
yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
That's
whether
deep.
it's all down here. It's all subconscious internal dialogue,
Yeah.
little mommy and daddy issues, all there, and it's not an issue. It's called you came down, you picked that mom and dad as energetic matches. They may have been crappy mom and dads, they may have been crappy versions of life, but you picked them because you're soul strong enough to break that pattern and upgrade, but yet we won't look. And so now when you won't look, you're projecting it onto everyone, not just you, not just the world, but your spouse and your kids and your work and business partners. I see this a lot in corporate America where they want to blame a manager or something like, really?
Right, right.
So it's everywhere. It's not like you can just apply it, but men, I'm not letting them off the hook, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying energetically, we left a good example is you can apply it to personal or professional, but like we left imagine in relationships, white picket fence relationships for spiritual relationships.
Mm.
And I'm using spiritual lightly. I'm meaning authentic soul aligned relationships where it's honest and truthful as opposed to I do this and you do that and I make the money and you make the dinner and you take the kids and you do the dishes and they're very tactical strategy relationships
Mhm.
which are white picket fence. I have the house, I have the car, see everybody I'm great.
Right, right.
We left that, and nobody's getting out of it now because 'cause we've moved into wisdom and truth, and you can't get out of it, so your truth is gonna get revealed, and theirs kinda got revealed when you're like, "No, I don't like this." Now, maybe you threw a little dagger at them, which either way, but you were like, "No," and the truth came out, and then some responded and some didn't. The ones that did, you said, "Got it." You realigned from authentic, right?
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I can't lie. I was definitely um
Triggered.
triggered. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. I was definitely triggered and I sat with it for a little bit. And after a little while, I was definitely questioning myself. Did I do this wrong? Did I word this wrong? Was I too pushy? Was I too available? I was questioning
Ah.
all these things. And then I thought about that for a minute too. And I was like, no, this is not a reflection of me. Maybe if it were just one or two, but five in a
Oh,
short amount
so
of time period. That's when I was like, oh, that's when I noticed that
interesting.
pattern. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
wait a second. This isn't me. I was consistent. I showed up. I was ready. I put in the work. I didn't receive that on their end. And that's when like I said, that's when I noticed that pattern and was like, all right, well, what was the common denominator here? They were all males. They were all relatively in a very similar profession.
Mm,
And so yeah, I that's when I was like, all right, I need to call this out. I need to one, like I said, I wanted to let everybody know that there's a reason why I was being inactive, but two, I think it was important. It was something that needed to be addressed. It needed to be, and with it being June being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I thought it was very fitting to call that out. And again, I didn't want to call anybody out individually, specifically, or anything like that. It wasn't about that. I wasn't trying to throw shade at anybody. It could have been. I really don't believe in coincidences, but it could have been just one of those things where
yeah.
all these different reasons.
I didn't take it that way that you were trying to throw again, I wasn't looking at it from that angle. I look at everything from frequency. Okay? So, if you can kinda consider, like, the best way I look at life is sonar, right? And so if I took this like a layer deeper, since like we're getting juicy, let's do it, right? Like,
Hmm.
so everybody focuses on the person who ghosted you, right? Like, and I'm interested in what the pattern is revealing on both sides. So we can see there. So I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying their BS was flared up. Like, don't know them, don't care, but everybody is. So no one's exempt, right? You and I aren't exempt, right? Um, because ghosting isn't just a behavior, it's information. And I think that's what I was catching. I was like, okay, so this is where I start looking at curious, and I call it that subconscious sonar, right? Those four B's are down below. They're going to keep sending out those insecurities
Hmm.
for whatever reason, even though you are a stand up, authentic, and, integrity ridden, like you just are full of life and energy, but we all still have to work on them. Like I told you, I just had to work on mine yesterday, and I'm like,
Right,
do it for a living, right?
right,
But
right.
it showed up sliver wise, and then you pulled back in. And so my point is, you said it was 5 or whatever, whether who doesn't matter the number, but what I like people to understand is if a pattern keeps showing up in your life or my life, which it had, I don't immediately ask like, why are they doing that? I ask, what is it trying to teach me?
Right.
Not because you caused it, not because I caused it, not because it's your fault, but because it's constantly giving me data.
Hmm.
And so that's where I go and go, okay, if this is giving me data, am I aligning with too low a frequency guests? And they just weren't at my frequency. Don't really have to take it more than that. Like, am I growing that much? I mean, you do a lot of powerful conversations. So it's bound to raise your consciousness and your awareness. And so sometimes people just, the topic looks good, but energetically are, if you're familiar with like frequency, right? If you have someone at, let's just, I'm using numbers in general, this aren't the frequency numbers, but if they're, let's just say they're at a 20 and you're at 100, you don't just connect and they talk low and you talk high. You have to come down and they get to move up.
Right.
You meet at the median. You don't meet at, they don't come up to you. It's too much work. It's uncomfortable to
Yeah.
come to you. So we can look at frequencies and all that all day long, but I look at every scenario when something is coming at me in a repetition. I say, okay, there's some data here.
Right. It's literally being thrown at me. Yeah.
Your sonar went out and there was something not matching that sonar, and I want to see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like
But
that.
you did get the results by putting it out there, being authentically truthful, and said, hey, and then you got the results of the ones that didn't go on, and I'm looking at it like, well, they don't match his resonance, his frequency. They don't even see you really anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I
Mhm.
think that's huge. And I think that's important for people to understand. So that way they're not, like you said, blaming themselves, bringing themselves down, thinking that there's
Yeah.
something wrong with them.
No.
And not that
No.
there's necessarily something wrong with the other person
No.
as well.
Yeah.
You just
Mhm.
weren't on that same wavelength. You weren't
Yes.
on that same
Yes.
frequency and it didn't mesh. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yes.
don't
Yes.
ignore it either.
Yes.
Recognize it for what it is. And then you can
Mhm.
start searching out those ones that are on your frequency, are at your same level, or close enough to where you can reach out to each other and mesh like you and I do so well,
Yeah.
if I do say so myself.
Yes, we do.
But But no,
Yeah.
I think that's huge, and that's so important for people to recognize that. Again, and you say it all the time. There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with them. They're
Mhm.
perfect.
Mhm.
It just doesn't mean that you're perfect for each other. And I think
Yeah.
that that's a huge message for people to understand.
Mhm.
So this ghosting thing, as you're saying, is probably been around for a long time. It's not anything new. We just probably just gave a name to it
Yes.
recently, right? As
Yeah,
far as
my
calling it
husband, he
ghosting.
was laughing because I don't know what was coming up, and I said, "Oh, they were ghostlighting me," and he's like, "I don't think that's a word." I'm like, "It's a Dawn word. I have Dawnish, not Spanish, not Dawnish." And he was laughing. He's like, "What's ghostlighting?" And I'm like, ghosting and while they're gaslighting you. And so I was like, we don't, who cares what the language is? The energy is what I was trying to
You
describe.
know
And
what
of
I'm
course,
saying when I say
yeah, and he was
it.
making fun of me, but then he was like, "God, I gotta think about this. And what if it's both?" And I'm like, "Does it matter what it is? The energy is I was you. I don't want to be in that frequency where people feel comfortable of ghosting and gaslighting and saying that didn't happen. Kind of did. I have it in an email. It's printed."
Right.
Right. So I don't want to explain myself anymore. And I wanted to see it, even though and we can laugh, you and I, on these conversations because he was too. When he's like, "That's kind of a word." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's my word. Gaslighting." You
I
know,
love that. You're
so
welcome. You can use it. Go ahead.
go ahead.
That's funny.
You're
I
right
wanted to
on.
ask you with obviously again it's not anything new. Maybe the name is newer, but do you think that things like social media or dating apps and stuff like that have made it worse or made it easier to ghost somebody?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. 1000% absolutely. I mean, Sean, think of it this way. Like, we have created a world where presentation is rewarded more than authenticity. That's what I'm telling you. People are going to get uncomfortable right now because frequency, I'm telling you all what happened. I'm preparing you. If you don't like when you start crumbling, it's Don and Sean shared. We told you what's going to happen, right? You got to
Right.
get authentic. And so we've created a world like this, and everybody's building a highlight reel, right? Where very people I don't see a lot of people building genuine connection and
Hmm.
even especially on the apps, right? And so I always say most people aren't connecting, they're presenting, even in actual marriages, right? But these apps, and they're like, "I'm dating and I can't find anyone." I'm like, "Because your energy isn't authentic." So you're
Right.
matching sonar to those who also aren't authentic. Their presentation is equaling yours, but there's no authenticity there.
Mm.
Does that make sense? So they're asking, like, "Do you like this version of me?" So they're showing up to be liked and needed instead of, "Do you actually know me?"
Right, right. Yeah, that's why they have those apps that you can just swipe left or swipe right. It's just that quick visual, and then you're just making those decisions based off of just their looks alone. And like you said,
Mhm.
yeah, you're not even getting to know this person. You're not reading their profile. You're not finding out their likes or dislikes. You're just making that quick
I
visual judgment and moving
Yeah.
on.
It's the filtered presentation. I mean, I can put anything on my profile and then you get deeper
Right.
in and you're like, "Oh," like social media gave everybody a stage. I don't care if it's an app or a social or a digital. It's all the same, right? We have gave everybody a stage, but it didn't necessarily give them self authority, like self
Mm.
authenticity, where they're
Yeah.
saying, "But this is who I am and I'm going to speak it and be." Well, there people are coming out of the woodwork, but I get asked this a lot on my private clients about dating, and they're like, I'm like, "Okay, did you say what we talked about of who you are, what you want?" "Well," and I get that "well" every time. They're like, "Well, sort of." I'm like, "Then you're not showing up authentic, so you're going to get an inauthentic version of them."
Right. Right.
Sonar, like attracts like, no matter what. It's a frequency, it's a universal law. I'm like, we can't like stop energy, you know?
Right, right, exactly. I
Right.
want this person to like me, and I'm afraid if I show them who I really am, that they won't like me. So I'm going to put out that facade version of me and in hopes that it will bring them in. And then maybe we can get to the real me later. And it's like, no, that's in my opinion, that's a recipe for disaster.
But don't you think that's what we're doing though? We're coming from "Something's wrong with me," and that's why I keep trying to tell people it's
Right.
BS. Nothing's wrong with you. You got 4 little wounds or classes that you just gotta take. It doesn't mean you're bad at it. You're just not gonna be as good at it, but tell them. I can tell you where my "Sean, I'm not great at this and this, but you're really good at it, so I'm gonna let you do that part. I'll do," like, we're good if we can just share it.
Right.
And you're like, "You don't have to do that, Don. I love doing that." Like, 2 people connect on their authentic self, but I don't think people know who they are, so they're showing up of who they think they need to be. That's inauthentic,
Mm,
wouldn't you say? I mean, that's
absolutely.
as inauthentic, I think, as you can get,
Yeah, 100%.
right?
100%. And then, I mean, if you actually get into a relationship with that person, how long are you going being that inauthentic version of yourself? You could go
Yeah,
your entire life,
yeah.
right?
And
And
you're
I've
miserable.
right, exactly, exactly. And you can't admit that you were the one living wrong, so you have to blame though that you have to blame
Yes.
something on somebody else, the other your partner. Well, I'm not living right, but it's because of you. You made
Yeah,
me do this.
yeah.
You made me this way.
Mhm,
I'm not happy because of, X, Y, and Z. Instead of just saying, again, I always say looking in the mirror and being honest with what you're seeing instead of coming up with those excuses or validations as to why you're not being that authentic version of yourself, not
mhm,
being your true version, and really living life the way that you should be living it. No, it has to
mhm,
be somebody else's fault. Yeah, I
mhm.
did this, but it's because of you, and and because it's so much easier to do that. It's so much easier to blame others for our current state. And so I've said this so many times, and I think I just apologized on my last episode. I was talking about it. My favorite quote is, "No one's at fault, but everyone is responsible." At
Agreed.
some point in your life, you have to take responsibility for yourself, your own actions. Stop blaming others. Stop blaming other circumstances or whatever the case is. That may have been what started things for you. But again, as we were talking about earlier, at some point you made a choice to continue down that path. You chose to continue going
Mhm.
about things the way that you were going about them instead of addressing it, doing that self-awareness of really deep diving into yourself and who you are, what you like, what you believe in, what you don't believe in, what you want, what you need versus what you want, right? And just being honest with that internal work that needs to get done in spite of those things that were holding you back or the person that suppressed you or whatever. And it's very rarely is it someone else or something else's fault. It's our own, but it's not easy for us to admit that.
I have I mean, I've worked with thousands of clients, like, clearly, I mean, I'm getting old, 30 years I'm in this industry, right? So, I've seen a lot, right? And one thing I can tell you, I have rarely have a client that doesn't show up and go, "My wife, my mother, my sister, my boss, okay? They're the problem, I need you to help me." And I'm like, I rarely have people show up and go, "Is it them or is it me?" I think it's me, Dawn. That's not they show up wanting me to come almost be like the referee, and I'm like, "It's you. It's always you. It's your energy. Now we can fix that very fast and clean and clear and move. You know, I want to give you back your power so it's not you and you're like attract. But we don't ask that question and you laid it out so well right there. Like we can work on ourselves or but you're like, I don't it's not me, it's them. And you stay in a relationship forever and it's always everybody's fault. And to me, that just suffering and exhaustion is not something I think
Right,
feels I don't think this feels good. So my point is we have to start asking, is it okay, there's a repeating pattern. Is it them or is it me? And
right.
we're not.
I love the word that you just said, exhausting.
It's
It
exhausting.
it is so exhausting,
Yeah.
constantly blaming others. And again, it's one of those like if you only knew how much easier things would be or how much better you would feel if you started doing that internal work.
Mhm.
But again, that's that discomfort level that we don't want to admit that we've been living wrong this whole time, living wrong and going about things the wrong way because it's so much easier to blame others, but that constant having to talk yourself into blaming other people, you don't even
Mhm.
realize how much energy goes towards that as opposed to
Totally.
just addressing that elephant in the room and then saying, "Oh, okay, one, there's an elephant in the room. Okay, what is that elephant? What is that wall like we were talking about before? What is all that baggage behind that wall? Let me start unpacking that. Again, bringing that back around full circle. I love those 4 Bs. I think I'm obsessed with it now. I just wrote them all down too because I wanted to come back to that. I think it's 100% right And the sooner that we're able to do that, unfortunately, for a lot of people, it's usually later rather than sooner, right? But the sooner that we are able to do it, and that's why I love the work that you're doing, because you're helping people get there a little sooner than they would have probably on their own, if at
Mhm,
all by themselves. But being able to address those things and then putting in that work, because like you were saying, you could go your entire life with that misery
mhm,
of living up to that facade and constantly
mhm.
looking to blame others or whatever and play that victim, thinking that it's easier. But if you start doing that work, all of a sudden your point of view, you stop with that victim mindset. You start looking at things as opportunities as opposed to things that are
Yeah,
hindering you or anchoring you down, right?
right. And you know what's fascinating is because of the way I teach, like I said, I teach karmic psychology, astrology. Like, I want to get into your subconscious. I really don't care about your future crystal ball because you're going to, like most people, like you just said, are going to be this way for 60 years and nothing's changed because they can't see themselves. So, by teaching Lighthouse Mastery, it's 12 rooms around you. And four of those rooms, as you said, I love your elephant. Right, 4 of those rooms you have had they're so hot, I don't wanna get close, and you padlocked them, and the lights are off, and their trash is full in there, and they don't wanna open the door and turn the light on and see that there's not just an elephant, there's trash in the corner, there's laundry,
Right.
there's old dirty laundry, emotional laundry, like, but if you would just turn the light on, put the laundry in the wash machine and eat
Right.
the elephant one bite at a time, but they won't turn the light on to see, "Oh, it's my own trash to learn and clean up, not theirs."
Right.
And so that
Right.
elephant in the room is just now padlocked for most people, and then they're sitting in 60 years of exhausted misery and suffering, and I'm kinda like, "It's not hard to fix as long as you see it, but we don't wanna open the door."
Right. Exactly. I've used this I I don't want to say program, but I've used this philosophy, I guess I would
Mhm,
say,
mhm,
where it's, we're standing at A and we're looking at Z and we're getting overwhelmed with everything in between. And you don't need to. You don't need to look at Z. You don't need to
mm-mm,
look at that end game or
no,
whatever. You don't need to look all the way down there. Look at B. What does
mhm,
B look like?
mhm,
Unlock that door,
yeah,
you know?
that's it.
C, turn on that light, just take it step by step,
Just
and if you
baby
focus
steps.
right, that's it, baby steps. It's funny, one of my favorite movies, when I was growing up it's called, What About Bob? And there is a psychologist or a therapist, in there that had a book that was called Baby Steps, and that's what it
It's
talks
a
about.
good
Now,
story.
if you know the movie, it's so ridiculous, but the concept behind Baby Steps is so spot on. Just don't worry about all of the other things that are gonna go wrong or whatever, just worry about the next step that you need to take. That small little baby step, again, being at A, look at B. What does B look like? It
This is a perfect example of what you shared about apps and social media, and we are literally in an information tsunami.
mm,
So you feel like you have to do it all because they're like, this one told you if you take this pill and then you do this exercise and then you talk to this therapist, or no, they're not a therapist, it's a coach, and then you go over here and you walk on the grass and then you have to be communicating, use these words. And I mean,
juggling
literally
all
the
these balls.
information. Yeah, I think it's hindering us because it's overwhelming. Is
Mm,
there amazing, brilliant stuff out there now? Absolutely. But if you don't know how to filter and do like you
yes.
said, just take one baby step. And then when you're done with that one, then do the next thing. But I think that you're so spot on. And I wish people understood this more about this information overload that has gotten people, I think, less aware than more.
Right, right. Yeah, so it's so overstimulating
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just too much to process and we
Yeah.
can't focus on one thing. And that's
Hmm.
why I think people don't resonate or don't aren't drawn to big meaningful conversations like this as much. They need
Yeah.
that
Right.
quick clip. They need
Yeah.
that thing that's going to give
Hmm.
them that false dopamine hit, and then they have to get the next one, and then get the next
Yeah.
one, and then get the
Right.
next one, as opposed to I saw this thing. This was a while ago, and it was talking about the false dopamine hit that people get when they take like cocaine or something like that,
Mm,
and they do this drug and they get that quick hit,
sure.
and then they gotta get another hit.
Right.
If you take a cold shower in the morning, it lasts like I forget the hours. I'd be making it up
Yeah.
if I said the
Yeah.
hours, but it lasts hours
Yeah.
longer, and it's that same level of dopamine,
Sure.
but it's a real dopamine hit,
Sure.
and your body will feed off of that so much more so. So it's little things like that. Are you being self-aware of, are you chasing these false dopamines and looking for that quick fix? Or are you really looking for true, genuine substance that you can actually feed off of and learn from and grow from?
Mhm.
And yeah, social media, there's so many amazing things out there. And there are so many amazing accounts and apps and all these
Mhm.
things that you could really
Mhm.
benefit from. But you're
Mhm.
right. You got to filter through that. What am I
And
getting?
if you don't know who you are, how do you filter, right?
Right.
They all work, but if you know who you are, I know what things don't resonate with me.
Right,
I have a lot of
right.
podcasts want me, "Hey, you wanna get on?" I'm like, no." But Sean and I, we could talk for hours, like,
Right, right.
"Okay, when do you wanna talk?" Like,
Eh,
so I'm very, like, aware of where my frequency feels neutral and truthful and authentic. Where
mm,
it's not, I just know to say no. Like, I don't just, "Okay, okay, okay." Like, so this is my point. Everything is like that.
yeah,
You don't know who you are, you're gonna have a hard time filtering what is for you.
right, and then an even harder time saying no,
Oh,
like
yeah.
you, so then you start putting yourself in positions to where you feel like you need to show up, and then that's when the ghosting happens, that's when the flakiness happens, because it's easier to just, "Never mind, let me shut everything off, turn all the lights off, and, pretend I'm not home," type of thing, as opposed to, yeah, being really in touch with who you are, what level
Yes.
frequency you're at, and then being able to protect your peace when it comes to that too.
Right.
So I love that.
Sure.
I love that about you. I love that you're able to do that. I love that you know yourself to that degree to and feel comfortable enough with yourself
And don't
to
get
be
me
able to
wrong,
do
there
that.
was a point when I didn't. I was a people pleaser. I was the biggest control freak, people pleaser, all that. That's why I made this work for a reason. That's why I broke it down to 4 Bs,
Mhm.
'cause I was doing what I tell everybody not to do, and I'm like, "What is wrong with me?" Like, we all do it, until finally I looked at myself and said, "This is who you are. Say no." And so instead of no, it's, "No, thank you." Like, I'm learning to, like,
Right,
let
right.
it be my way, right? But I'm still finding ways to do what you just said, is baby steps. Just stay at 1 time and just stay at 3 times, and all of a sudden I was like, "God, that boulder was not as hard to climb as I thought."
Right,
But it
right.
felt like it until I realized where I had to kinda grow, and I was no different than everybody else in that category of just over dimming.
Right, right. That's
Mhm.
why I bring it back to what I said earlier, growth mindset. And you have that, and I love the fact that you are now helping other people try to achieve that as well, because you're right. You're no different than anybody else. I'm no different than anybody
Yeah.
else. We
Yeah.
just had that slight pivot, and I
Mhm.
love that you said, not going from, okay, this is what I want, and so no, having it be this hard pivot to the
Yeah.
other direction,
Yeah.
because a lot of people tend to do that. They have this
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
overswing of, oh, I was leaning so far this way, so now I'm gonna
Yeah.
really drive this way, and it's like, no,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be this big overhaul change, just a slight adjustment, slight pivot. And then we can go forward that way. And if you need to pivot a little bit more, you can do that. Figure it
Yeah.
out, but you don't need to completely turn around and be inauthentic in another way simply because you know what your likes or dislikes are now.
Right, I can still be kind because that's who I am by nature. I just
Right.
don't have to be so kind that I'm losing all my energy and being, run down and taken advantage of, which I was for a very long time. But I'm a master doer, so no one knew. But my body was getting sick, I was getting run down, and I was like, "What's wrong with me?" Well, duh. There's only so much of dawn to go around, but I was not wanting to see me. And when I finally had to go in and into that lighthouse and go, "Oh, there's only 4, I can do 4." I can look at 4. The rest of me is awesome, but that, okay, I'll do it. And then again, I can 100% admit I had to do it slow. Like
Yeah.
slowing down, I was a workaholic, so it took me a long couple of years to back out of not working so many hours a day. I mean, it would be
Mm.
15, 17, 18-hour days would be no brainer to me.
Yeah.
That's illogical. Like, right? It's exhausting, but I couldn't see it because that was my people pleasing nature until I realized you gotta slow down and say no, but it was very gradual.
Mm.
And then when I really figured it out, then I was like, "Okay, I'm only working like 4 hours a day," like, or whatever,
Right,
like,
right. Yeah.
it took me a while to figure that out, but it does take you time to see you, that's all,
Yeah,
and try to be you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, again, it took you, however old you are at the point of the self-realization, we'll say 30 years,
Mhm.
40 years, whatever,
Yeah.
fill in the blank. It took you that long to become that version of you. So yeah, it's going to take some time
Mhm.
to unpack again, get on the other side of that wall, unpack those things and then figure that type of stuff out. It's not going to be that overnight switch. It's not going to be this. I mean, maybe some people you'll have that grand awakening and just be a completely different person at the drop of a dime, but for a lot of people it's going to take some good quality long hard work
Mhm.
of really figuring out who you are,
Mhm.
again, what you are, what you believe in, what you don't believe in, what your likes, what your dislikes, what your wants are versus your needs and stuff like that, and then figure out how to go about achieving those things,
Right.
how to let go of the things that you need to let go of because you've held on to them for so long, and then that makes room for the things that you want to then bring into your life, right?
Yeah.
It's the law of detachment goes hand in hand with the law
Yeah.
of attachment.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you said earlier that I wanted to bring it back to, you mentioned insecurity as the root cause for ghosting and or not showing up, whether it's
Mhm.
just in a personal situation or a business situation or whatever the case is. What are some of the signs? Because I want people to be able to kind of do this self reflection with themselves. What are some of those signs of somebody that's insecure?
So you wanna know what the funny thing about insecurity is? It rarely looks insecure. That's the
Right.
piece I want people to know, right? Like, sometimes it looks arrogant or controlling or perfectionism or abandonment, right? That's what I'm saying. That was an insecure. I'm just gonna run away from you. Criticism. It looks more extroverted. Why? Because the common denominator is they're constantly looking outside of themselves to determine their worth. So
Mm,
their insecurity comes from aggression and they need validation, they need approval, they need reassurance, and neediness, as I said, you and I talked about that, is a lack and scarcity frequency. And so
hmm.
when they need something or they're aggressive or they're controlling you, that's insecurity, right? Like, because they
Right.
haven't built trust within themselves or authentic want. I can walk in a room and, do you want this done? No, you really do. You got to try it. No, like, I am very authentic me, like, energetically. I'm very confident because I don't have those insecurities about myself if I say no or I don't go to that party and am I going to have FOMO and I missed the big thing and I'm just like, believe me, my book is way better. Like, I don't have that need anymore of, like, if I miss something. But when people are trying to control a scenario, or in couples or relationships, as we are talking about, the insecurity comes out when you continually defend or react or go silent because you're pulling away from someone because you're not confident enough to say what you want. And
Hmm.
we're making this way too difficult, but you can see it in the people who need you to do something or see something or approve of something so they can be okay. So
Right.
it's more visual. I tell people, go to that 10,000 like aviation point and watch and just be in the party or be in the be in the argument. And you're like, whoa. So usually what they're throwing at you is what they're insecure and needy in.
Right, right. I feel like you see that a lot in like movies and TV shows too. The bully is the one that's actually insecure
Right.
and has
Okay.
like the
Yeah,
rough home
exactly.
life,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
At first you feel so bad for the victim that's being bullied, but then you find out all the issues that the bully has, the troubled home life, and or whatever, and then you're like, oh, you have. Then you start feeling sorry for them. They're usually the ones that, yeah, they're projecting those things that they're insecure about, and then they have to validate, who, well, I'm receiving attention when I do this, so I'm going to do that, as opposed to like, I don't need that attention and I don't want that type of attention. I
Yeah.
want,
Confidence is
authentic.
what do I want? Insecurity is what does everybody want me to be? It's true.
Yeah.
Watch them.
Yeah.
You can watch people.
A hundred
And
percent.
it's sad to me because I'm like, "Can I have your authentic self, please?" Like,
Right,
I know.
right. Yeah, exactly. Like, and again, I think that comes back to somebody realizing, like you were saying, you are enough. You're perfect. You know,
Yes.
you just need to have that slight little adjustment. And I was just talking about this not too long ago. Our feelings are never wrong because
Mhm.
that's a natural reaction to
Mhm.
our perception, our level of understanding of a certain situation. But it's our mindsets that need to be altered a little bit when it comes to
Mhm.
certain things. But
Mhm.
you're never wrong with how you feel.
Mhm.
So when you're feeling like you're not enough, yeah, you just need to know that you are enough. You need to
Mhm.
know that you're perfect as you are. You just need to do a little bit of work, and then you'll feel like you're perfect. You'll understand it and you'll
Yeah.
know that. And if you can get somebody to start being their authentic selves, like you said, the interactions that you have are so much better. It flows so nicely. It's a beautiful thing. You feel that connection with somebody when they're not putting up that facade and that fakeness and that act that they have to do because they want somebody to perceive them the way that they think they should be perceived by somebody
And
else.
have you noticed too that it comes in small deliveries, Sean? Like my husband and I were going for a walk the other day, and he kind of has a weak spot here, so I'm pretty firm with him there, so we can stay authentic. But we were walking, and then which path do you want to take? And we're still walking, but he's a builder, and he's like, it's like he never heard me. He did. He's like, "Oh, look, there's two remodel projects down there." And I'm like, "What did I just say?" Right? And he's like, "Well, what do you want?" And he went there. He's like, "Who do you want me to?" And I was like, "No, no, no, no. I asked you a question. Where do you want to go, left or right?" And he looked at me like, crap. He didn't even catch it. So I'm saying it's sometimes we don't know we're doing it. And he's like,
Right.
"I want to go on the path." I'm like, "Okay." So I could adapt to that. But I watched him do that, and he's like, "You do that well. Thank you for not, like, beating me up." And I was like, "I don't wanna beat you up, but I'm not gonna, keep making decisions where this is a you're not being honest with me." And he wasn't meaning to lie, but he was more like, "You're not telling me what you really want," because he was trying to adapt to what I wanted.
Right,
And I had
right.
asked him blatantly, "What do you want?" And so I'm watching this, and I thought, it's not just my husband. He's probably be mad if he hears that I'm telling on him right now, but, like, this is a natural experience I have, and I wanna hear from you. Do you see those little moments where you're like, "Huh, they won't say it, they're making me decide
Right.
for them."
Yeah, 100%. And
Uh,
you're
yeah,
like it's the same thing that you had just said too. It's usually when you ask a question, they ask the question back to
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Like, yeah, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? Well, I asked you that. Like, you answer that first.
mhm.
Well, and they don't say this obviously, but it said, well, yeah, I feel like if I say what I want, you're not going to want that. And
Ah, that's
then
exactly it.
that's a problem, apparently. Like we make up these scenarios in our heads,
Yep,
and I don't understand. Yeah, I guess it's that level of insecurity that we
it is.
have,
Mhm,
and again, bring that back to what happened in the past that led you to not feel comfortable enough to say what it is that you want to say and let that be enough and
mhm,
let you have that understanding that it's not the end of the world if somebody else that you're dealing with at any given time doesn't want that exact same thing. If I were to say, or if you asked me, Sean, what do you want to eat? And I said, pizza. And then you said, I'm not in the mood for pizza. Then I can say, well, what are you in the mood for?
mhm, exactly.
But to not answer the question because I'm afraid of your judgment of my answer, so I'm just gonna ask you that same question.
Mhm.
That's a huge thing with a lot of people, and you're right, it shows up in so many different little scenarios, like going for a walk, like, "What do you want for dinner?" "What do you wanna
Yeah.
do right now? What do you
And the
wanna
old
watch
me
on
would have said,
TV?"
"Okay, but I don't really want pizza." But the new me is like, "Okay, I know where you like to go. I'm gonna have only meatballs and a salad because I'll get what I want, but I don't want your pizza." Like, cool,
Yes.
you can have pizza. So I can still pick me, but you can't adapt to people in relationships or situations if you're not honest with what you want. And it's total different confidence showing up. Not saying I want you to want what I want. I just know what I want. Instead of hiding and being like, "See that he didn't read my mind. He didn't know I don't like pizza." And then you turn into this weirdo.
Right, right.
And I
Oh, you're
just think
so
couples
right.
would be so happier if they would just learn authentic truth and realize. And like I said, this is this new program I've been creating, and it's almost ready, but I've hit so many relationship stuff with men, especially in these men's groups, and I'm like, "Guys, you don't have a communication or a strategy problem. You just haven't been allowed to realize how to show up authentically you, and most people don't do the work you're like, I shouldn't say the level of work you do. So you don't I get it, but there's gotta be a point. It's why I made the reality check reset course where it is those first 2 Bs, your blocks and your baggage, your daddy wounds and your mama wound,
Mm,
your where you're stuck and where your emotions sit, and go, "If I could just see that in myself, I don't have to do all 4, I don't even have to do the rest. I don't have to do
right.
all the elephants. I just
Right.
need to, like you said, baby step, just start with 2." You would feel so much more confident with who you are and what you want.
Yeah, that I think that's a big thing. Confidence, insecurity, and then confidence. Insecurity is going to lead to low confidence. If you can get to the point of feeling secure with who you are, being okay with who you are, you'll have that
Yeah.
level of confidence rise up for you,
Yeah.
and then you can be your authentic self. You can
Totally.
present yourself in that way that you're not scared of rejection or whatever the
Mhm.
case is. And I love that I don't need to want what you want. We'll say, talking about food or something like that, whatever
Yeah.
the case is, I can still want what I want, and I can meet you in the middle somewhere. Let's go to this restaurant because they have pizza and they also have salad. I want a salad, you want pizza, we can go there. Boom, we're both happy. But no, you don't want pizza, never mind. We're so quick to no, 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 never mind. Um, one of the things that I wanted to make sure I asked you, because again, people I think are gonna really recognize. Probably, unfortunately, most people are going to recognize some of these patterns in somebody else, but hopefully, people listening will start to recognize some of these patterns within
Right.
themselves.
Mhm.
For the people that find themselves backing out, whether it's in a relationship or a professional situation, personal situation, whatever the case is, backing out, ghosting, being flaky, whatever the case is, what is one of the first things or some of the few things that they can do to start breaking that cycle and start actually showing up for themselves, showing up for other people?
Well, A, take my reaction or my reality check reset course, right? Like, I put it on paper. I make it so black and white. You don't have to know astrology. You don't have to know any. You just got to look at your soul. But that would be my like fast track, right? But I guess if you're asking me on like like couples, like is that what you're asking more on
Yeah,
relationships?
sure, yeah.
I don't know. Most like powerful advice I can give to couples, right? Is stop asking what's wrong with my partner. What's wrong? Like, why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? Why can't you? I don't know. Why can't you come home on time for dinner or whatever? Like, why? Why are you being like this? Right. And I think that is like the first thing we have to start looking at is why we're always looking at what's wrong with them.
Mhm.
It's a big indicator of where you're avoiding yourself, right? Instead of asking, maybe start asking, like, what is this situation showing me about myself? Well, okay, if he doesn't show up for dinner on time, I'm going to make dinner. I'm going to sit down and eat, right?
Right.
If he's continually late, he says he'll be here and he's not. And I keep waiting. And I've done all this hard work for me, for us. But for me, I value my time and my cooking and the warm food. I'm gonna eat. It's there for him. I'm not mad at him. I'm gonna let him eat when he gets home. There's a plate, there's the crock pot, whatever. That's where we have to start asking, what is this situation showing me about myself? Am I not giving myself permission to just appreciate the good thing I just did? Like we're using someone else to say I'm not enough. And so our
Mm.
partner is often revealing your blocks, your baggage, and your bruises. And most people blame the mirror, right? They
Oof.
are the mirror. So very few look at the reflection or like your relationship isn't the problem. Your presentation and your intention usually are. And right. So I don't like telling people because mirroring, there's like thing called mirror work, right? Like do the mirror work or look, they're the mirror to you. And my point is they're less like my husband are like very black and white, and that's why we're like my gifts are his, not his, and his gifts. So we balance each other. But at the end of the day, when he does certain things that trigger me, I'm nothing like him. But I needed to see what he's bringing me as a message when it does trigger me because it's for me. It's not me. And I
Right.
think couples get tripped up on like, but I'm nothing like them. They're rude, they're loud, they're aggressive, they're a narcissist, they're controlling. And I'm like, I know, and you're an empath and you both have the same insecurity wound, and theirs is the loud insecurity wound, and yours is the quiet, passive insecurity wound. And you're learning to be more loud and bold and use your want words. And they're learning that you won't play so they can back down a little bit and soften. It's
Mm.
the same frequency match, and I don't like people to say, "I'm not a narcissist." They are, so I'm not that bad. But you attracted them to learn something, right?
Right, right, right.
So, I tell couples this all the time. It's not about, like, the mirror of, like, your exact part you're the same person looking in the mirror. You're looking at what is the reflection offering you? What is the situation showing me about myself that I don't want to see? And can I embrace it? Can I go eat
Mm.
dinner on my own? Now, if this is a repeated infraction, yes, now you're going, well, do you respect yourself enough to just finally take care of you and quit waiting? I'm using dinner because you were talking about
Right.
pizza. I'm I'm hungry. But this is an example.
Right, right, exactly. No, and I think it's a good one because everybody can relate to it. But you're so right. Again, we're so quick to point the finger, to blame others, and not do that internal work. What is it that I'm doing? What is it that I'm bringing to the table? What am I projecting? What am I putting out there? And that's what's causing them to respond the way that they're responding. Or, again, you can't blame you can't put blame on somebody else's response because, that's their own baggage to undo, right? The only thing that we can control is ourselves, how we respond to a situation, the energy that we bring to it. I love that other quote, if you can't control what's going on around you, control how you respond to it, and that's where your power lies. Again, we are so much more powerful than we like to give ourselves credit for because again, it's easier to blame, be the victim,
If
blame the
you have an
circumstances.
abandonment wound, right, you're going to look for every opportunity to say, he didn't show up to say, look, you abandoned me. So now I'm just reiterating and reaffirming myself as abandoned, as
Right.
opposed to going, I made a great meal and I'm not gonna abandon myself and I'm gonna go eat. There's the
Right.
shift. It's so little, but we use our partners because we want them to fix it for us. If he shows up, then I won't be
Right.
abandoned. I won't be so needing someone to tell me I won't be left again. And my point is they're such micros show ups, right? On the trail, right? Like what?
Right.
Oh, there it was. Like, so we have to just be so self-aware of going, okay, are my wounds abandonment? Are they guilt? Are they shame? Are they fear? Are they control? And then know when someone's trying to control you. Oh, no thanks. Yeah, I got the thanks in there. No thanks.
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
You
because
know,
again, you
like,
don't need to be mean, you can still be kind,
okay, no,
right?
thank you. Not interested in that, but I can catch it of trying to be controlled as opposed to thinking that you're a bad person. Why are you controlling me? They're totally just
Right.
being them.
Right, because they don't know any better. They weren't made
Yeah.
aware, and they're just going about things the way that they go about them because of, again, bringing it back, things that happened to them in the past, and that's what
Yes,
they're
their
they're carrying
childhood.
now.
Yeah.
Ah, I love it. Don, you're so awesome. I appreciate you
Thank
so
you.
much. I love your mindset. I love how real you keep it. I love the way that we can flow off of these conversations. And I knew this was going to happen. Again, I know I could talk to you for another
No.
2 to 3 hours, but I thank you so much for coming back on and having the conversation that clearly a lot of others are avoiding.
Mhm.
And again, the level of realism that you bring to it, it is just a breath of fresh air. It's
Thank
a
you.
a glass of fresh water. I love it so much. I could drink it all day. I could breathe it all day. More people need to have these type of conversations. More
Mhm.
people need to be okay with being vulnerable, okay with being uncomfortable, because again, that's where true growth comes from. And the more that we can do it, the easier it gets. Again,
Yeah.
like lifting weights, it's hard at first, but once you do it, the stronger you get and the easier it gets. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you again for coming on. For those that want to follow Dawn or get in contact with her and get involved with her work, I believe you can find her on Instagram at I Deserve It Now, and then your website is ideserveitnow.com, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome. Is there
Thank you so
anything
much.
anything else, any other way of getting a hold of you?
I'm on every you could put my name in to yeah, I'm hard to find. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
hard to find. You can Google me. I mean, I'm
okay,
pretty I YouTube, I'm on every social media. There's
you're
nowhere to
there.
not find me. So you'll find me somewhere if you need to. But thank you back. Like I just you're right. We could lose ourselves like for hours, but I appreciate
Honestly.
you so much just like being one of the lighthouses that's bringing light to people that they don't know they need and then you bring it and it's like, "Oh, I didn't know it was that simple." So thank you for being that lighthouse. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Again, I could literally, like you said, get lost talking with you. So,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.